I'm sure he'll be looked at as a squad player, and even Crosby, I'm sure, might be thinking, come the 2nd or 3rd of August, whatever the date is, that if he's got all his transfer targets that he's been able to bring in, then it's unlikely Lowe will be in the starting 11. I think he's definitely one, as you can imagine, he would be perhaps somebody who could be on the substitutes bench, be versatile, can cover positions if we get injuries or if we're under pressure late on. With his experience, you can bring him on to protect the back four. So, yeah, I think, I mean, in terms of Port Vale last year, I'm sure they've got a bigger budget than us, obviously been promoted. So it's not a total surprise he wasn't able to force his way into their starting 11, because I think they had a pretty strong end to the season. Ultimately, that's why they got promoted. So we'll just have to judge him as he for what he does for us. It sounds a positive that he hasn't really been injured, because obviously we've made that mistake in the past, signing players mid-late 30s who have come with injury records and it's not worked out. So it sounds like that's not an issue, which is a positive. And I'm sure they've learned from mistakes in the past about signing players with poor injury records. So yeah, I agree though, Matt. I still think you look at, if Crosby sticks with the system that he played for the majority of his time as the permanent manager, you're playing 2 number 10s behind the single striker and then 2 sort of sitting midfielders behind them. So the only 3 players who I would say could play in those 2 deeper positions are Lowe, Finlay and Josh Williams. So Finlay, number 1, is suspended, and number 2 is also no spring chicken. And Josh Williams is very much untried. So yeah, I would be amazed if we weren't looking at other options in the middle of the park. At least one, probably a loanee. I would imagine at least there'll be a loanee coming from a team in the division, but a young lad. And so I think Lowe is just, it's a sensible signing, you would imagine, in terms of the squad. But I will be a bit concerned if we, as I say, in a few more weeks we get to start the season and him and Josh Williams are our only 2 candidates for those 2 midfield places, unless you put Lee O'Connor in there, which is another option, of course. So yeah, a sensible signing, but let's hope there's a bit more to come for that position.
I do think there's a possibility that O'Connor will play midfield next season. I think it was a bit of a needs must situation last year, and he slotted into that back 3. This time 12 months ago, we weren't talking about O'Connor as a potential centre half playing as a part of a back 3 that was ultimately going to help Tranmere out of the mire when they needed him. But I'm not sure O'Connor is necessarily going to operate there. I'm not necessarily sure we'll play with 3 centre halves next year either. I think that there's probably going to be some flexibility formation. I think the style of play will change as well. So I think there's a few things up in the air, and obviously Crosby won't allude to how they're going to set up too literally, because for one of opposition managers sort of getting wind of it. But yeah, I'm not sure with the fact that we've added so much defensive reinforcement, it makes me wonder whether or not O'Connor will be promoted into that holding midfield position, which he's pretty comfortable in.
He's obviously played under Andy Crosby before, so another player who knows the manager and wants to play for him, which is a good sign. And we believe he's very good around the dressing room, which is something that can't be sniffed at either, because I think it's fair to say that in recent years there haven't been enough leaders on the field, have there?
Yeah, I mean, we remember, when you had that spine of Peter Clark, Jay Spearing and James Vaughan, I mean, absolute leaders, experienced, set examples. You can imagine in the dressing room keeping standards high for the younger players. So I think I would say, you can never have enough of those around. That said, you need to find a balance. The offset of that is having youth and pace and enthusiasm. So we've got quite a bit of experience in that squad now. You look at your Turnbull and Nathan Smith, McGee, Lowe and Finlay, Connor Jennings, Christian Dennis. There's a lot of football, a lot of league football in their legs, which is great to have that experience and that know-how. But on the flip side of that, I would like us to bring in a little bit more youthful exuberance. We obviously brought in Whittaker, which will bring that. But yeah, a little bit more hopefully going forward, because we do need we do need some more options in there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like Dave said. Low will it comes in to add some experience and to help players, and there's a lot of the Vale fans sort of spoke quite highly about how he helps with younger players and helps them develop their game, and we do have we have players at opposite ends of the spectrum, the likes of Whittaker and Josh Williams, Saul Solomon. These are players that could have played quite key roles for Tranmere next season, and they've got plenty of leaders, if you like, in the dressing room next year as well. Someone like Smith, for example, was described as a warrior when he arrived as the first Tranmere signing this summer. But it's for Andy Crosby, it's really the human side of things and the way in which to build that culture in the dressing room, which was obviously went so toxic last year under the previous manager. And his emphasis on togetherness started from the very beginning when he came in, and they all had a sit down and chatted about vulnerabilities and what about their life and what have you. And his man management seems to be absolutely exemplary, based on so much positive praise coming in from these new signings, so much positive praise from the players that have signed these new contracts. And while it's never really been alluded to, quite rightly, about the previous regime, Crosby knows what he's doing. He's got a strong idea of the type of characters and personalities he wants, and for Lowe's presence in the dressing room will be as important as what he actually does on the pitch next season. And let's face it, it'll be a bit part on the pitch in whatever way, shape or form, unless we have an injury crisis.